All right, so major market verticals, identity products. Okay, there are business class identity products, there are personal identity products, there are going to be legal things that tie into these things. You want there to be an identity products level such that, for example, if you have an identity products level, that's where your financial grid probably really exists, your accounts information. It's one part of it. Because you have to be able to configure your identity profile for your accounts. And so that's where those would live on the identity product level. There's also going to be a financial grid that has all accounts such that if you want to make sure that accounts are up to date, you don't have these delays between systems, between the data rippling through a system. You want to all point towards one thing so that you get the most update data and you don't have this constant many links in the chain passing process, because when you play telephone, the more links there are in telephone, the more strewn the message might get by the time you get to the other side. And so it's kind of like that in computers, only it's more this delay. Maybe there are round off factors and things like that, or overdrafts and things like that you don't get around unless you build this network a consistent, logical way. And so again, there are a lot of things with identity products, prorating payments, again, but how do you divide up these systems? And that's why I say that you want the addendums for letting the private sector argue the best way to organize itself. Because for my mind, you have teams developing these identity products for managing, plugging in legal services and things like that, and they have one set of things that they're trying to sell. There are also these legal products and they plug in, and so how do you define the credit for the monetization strategy? Because in the case of identity products, where you have legal products and financial products plugging into an identity product, I think actually the right thing to do is to take the sales from the trying to build the point of sale systems and the transactional grid systems, and you let them protect their own library structure for how those ecosystems evolve. And then you have separate ecosystems for the identity products for how those evolve. And so though you're counting the sales for the identity product as somebody is using this identity product and then they're plugging these things in through it, and so this identity product is generating all this revenue for all these relationships. But it's also, some of that revenue is coming from the legal products and the financial products, like maybe Rocket Money is one app that you could pay for, and it has these advanced, but it's a blend. It's like between identity products and financial products. And so, do you have things double counted? Do you define it that your sales for your API stream are counted over here, or they're counted over here? But we have to define that, and then we've defined, if you want to compete in one of these arenas, here's how it's defined, and here's how you can reach the top of that table. And so, again, I've strewn into, because the identity products have that relationship, and that's one of the big things that I want to point out here. When you build an advanced grid, if you set it up such that it's one monarchy versus another monarchy always fighting each other like this, you're not going to be exploring how to combine these systems to explore all of their beauty, the potential of all of their beauty for how they can come together. We want this model where there's this addendum strategy, and we can talk about, as a society, how these critical, very critical free market layers evolve, because that's what they are when you understand it. If you lock down and don't do something like this for how medical records evolve, you're never going to be exploring this chemistry for how you have the strongest overall medical records system to power your industry to optimal levels, which in that case, the case of that industry, that's treatment plans, that's tracking somebody's treatment journey, and in the case of mental health for sure, you can't even do the research effectively to correlate what works. That's really true in medicine as well, and you want to be able to know what medications people are taking if they come to one hospital versus another, otherwise you're not going to know what might interact to save a life, all of these things. And think about the research. If you're doing the research this unorganized, you're going to get cures more slowly. Okay, and so identity products, moving on to education and strategic pivot. Now, these are the two that we'll talk about next. And that's how I think we sort through all of this. But